So this is the Pug. It is a kind of a super off-road golf cart, knobby tires. It's a pretty neat unit. I've done a couple cleanup items, nothing video worthy, but touching up things like the shifter bezel, the cup holders. It's got a power bed tilt, and then some 3D printed bits to tighten up the steering. Pretty neat unit. What we're going to talk about today is mostly the bed. So let's go look at the old one. It is a dump box. It has a tailgate, which is sitting over there. And then this is the combination bed floor and seat assembly. So pretty cool how it was set up originally. So you got this lower spot. This is kind of behind the end of the frame. So dump plus seats, and it's in rough shape. So we're going to cut out some of this part here to try and salvage the original stickers, just because we can. The rest of it, I don't think there's anything here worth saving. So I'll probably show you the CAD model of the new one. Spin that around real quick, but I had it laser cut by Trinity Fabworks, and I'll link to their shop. Cody, super nice guy, did a great job on these. So that's a 14 gauge. That's the new flatbed. We're getting rid of the seating area. Do the flatbed. These are the rails and the rear panels, some gussets, and then sitting over there is the bulkhead portion. So this is going to be a stake pocket and some wrapped corners that are going to get welded up and metal finished. So I've got some work to do, but I'm going to switch cameras. We'll start laying out the bulk shapes and just see what it's going to look like. So we're going to start at the bottom and start laying out the basic frame rails. I'm using my smaller fixture table because it's not clogged with stuff right now. So it just fits. 32.5 is the outside dimension, and squeezing it on my 32-inch table, it's going to be fine. All right, so my first look with the two main rails canted back at an angle, and then the top that's been bent and formed. The fit is phenomenal. So I relief cut the corners in CAD, and then I have this little undercut here. I might have to open it up just ever so slightly to close this gap up. So I might have to bring this notch down just a whisker, and this is looking good. And then the front did exactly what I wanted to do. It nests out right there. So I'm getting the bulkhead laid out, and I'm going to end up welding up all the seams. Due to tooling limitation, that bend, the two vertical bends on the corners, came at a little greater than 90. So I had to get a little creative. I don't have any bar clamps, it's quite that long. Rated the towing basket and got out a binder. So this worked okay. Once I got it in shape and then bolted down, it was held well enough to weld, and then the shape is pretty well locked in at that point. So I'm locking it down with weld nuts on the bottom, so when I flip it over, I'm going to weld the weld nuts in place. It'll make assembly a little bit later quite a bit easier. Here I'm creating a clamping point with the aluminum block that I can suck that corner in tight. Similar thing, it just needed to close the gaps up just a little bit and then put some weld on it, and turned out well. If I did this over again, I might make those corners a separate piece from the bulkhead, just to eliminate that manipulation being required. But lesson learned. It was fixable, and it turned out nice. So tomato, tomato. Here I am starting on the corners, and this I would do differently. I thought I was being clever, leaving the wings on the bent piece. If I go back in time, instead of hammering them like I'm showing here, I would have made that a separate piece, bump bent it on a press brake to get a much more consistent, smooth radius. That would have taken out that seam in the middle and some of the metal finishing. Like, again, turned out fine. I'm quite happy with it, and a learning opportunity for next time. So I'm working through, like, I left a little extra length. That worked out fine. And here I am slicing it, and then in a moment, I welded it. I guess skip that clip, and now we're into rough grind. This is the furred sanding discs, the combi lock, combi click, something like that. And then a final DA, kind of metal finishing this up to a point. It turned out well. At this point, it's time to flip it over and do all of the backside welding. I have just a handful of tacks holding the base structure to the lid, and this would have been a good thing to have on my other fixture table. This worked okay, but I had to get a step stool to reach some of it. So we're flipped over. Just do a quick weld montage to show laying out some stitch welds, and so the next step, I am duplicating the original mount locations, and that's what I'm showing here with these straps. That's the pivot for the box on the frame. I kind of had a suspicion that it might be adjusted, so I lay these out, square them, put them in the same position as the originals, and then I just put 4 tacks on it, just enough that I could put it on the thing and verify it. I didn't weld them home yet. I didn't necessarily expect it to be, needing adjustment, but a test fit was definitely necessary. And of course, the other side for symmetry. So at this point, I have the rubber bumpers, the 1-inch thick bumpers on the front. That's recreating what was there originally. And now we're ready to flip this thing down gently. This reminds me, I have a small crane design that I'd like to build. I think that combined with a magnet would make projects like this a lot more manageable. I'm reminded that I would really like to finish that. I'm going to bring that back to the top, to the front of the pile at some point in the future. But for now, we manhandle this thing around. It's really not that heavy. I think shipping weight from the laser cutter was just over 100 pounds for what you see here, so it's not terrible. Just a little awkward. The video is sped up, and this doesn't look very gentle, but I was actually being careful getting it into place. And I'd like it to be a little higher. As I'm looking at it and seeing where, and this is recreating what the original bed was, but it aesthetically is very different without bed sides. So in this clip, I'm now looking for interferences and just seeing what my clearances are. But really what I'm noticing is that I want the whole bed to come up, make the seat pan area match the top of bed. I think it's just going to be a much better look overall. Maybe I would have caught this if I had modeled more of it in CAD. At the same time, this is an easy redirect to just adjust a couple brackets, and primarily the reason I just tacked it in place. So it worked out well being cautious and doing a test fit. I'm shimming it up with some square tubing cutoffs to get a height that I like, and kind of making a plan for what it's going to take to extend the bracketry. And so with the new plan, I'm going to pop the bed back off. I was on the fence of putting it back on the weld table, but honestly that's just a little too high to work comfortably. So we're going to do the next part on the floor, grab one of my car cribbing blocks and get it approximately leveled, enough that we can get some work done. So I made some tubing stanchions for the front to elevate the front corners and reposition the rubber feet. Easy enough adjustment. And then at the rear, I'm just lowering the straps down the appropriate distance. I think it came out 3 inches higher than call it the original plan. And these brackets happen to work out fine. I split a piece of box tubing to make 2 pieces of 1x3, 1x3 C-channel, and then canted the angles. This turned out really nice. I think it fits the look well, and you wouldn't, I mean, without watching the video and knowing that an adjustment was made, I don't think you'd ever notice. So a quick deburr, little filing on the inside. I'm out of belts for my 1/2x18 belt sander, and I keep forgetting to order more. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do that right now. All right, so similar thing. We're heavy tacked, but we're not finished welded yet, and we're gonna do another just real quick test fit. Pretty confident that I've got it dialed, but we're going to double check before we send it home. There you can see the brackets peeking out. And yeah, this is a much better look aesthetically. And then a quick cycle and starting to mark the location for the brackets for the linear actuator for the dump mechanism. So at this point, I'm verifying, just double checking all the fitment, and then trying to get everything marked out for the linear actuator. That's critical to make sure that the bed closes correctly. And of course, the necessary montage of cleaning up the shop and putting the tools away. Love it. So the customer did request that we keep the Pug stickers. Kind of just the sentimental thing. This is the only logos displayed on the unit. So the bed itself, like I mentioned, the bed was trash, but I'm cutting out enough of these that they can be saved. And it's kind of neat that they're patinaed and, you know, worn, they're original to the thing. So I cut it pretty wide with the torch, and then I went back later and bandsawed out nicer rectangles that he could either fold on the thing or make garage art. Whatever he chooses to do with it is fine. I could recreate the stickers, but I can't, I can't make them original to the unit. So he asked to keep them, and then here I'm just cutting out some of the bolts to make it lighter. The rest of this is getting recycled. This is pretty heavy. This is me doing a quick check to make sure that I can get it loaded. I don't have to cut it any further. Here's the plates, and I've got them marked out with a silver Sharpie. I trimmed them up off camera. I was on the fence about paint or powder coat on this part, and this was a nice opportunity for me to do a little practice with just painting overall. So this has Eastwood's black epoxy primer, 2 coats, and then a single coat of the chassis 2K satin black. It turned out really good. I've got just a cheap spray gun, Harbor Freight equivalent, and it did okay. I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. So I skipped ahead a little bit on the assembly, but the bed is on, pinned in place, linear actuator's working fine. Bulkhead turned out good. I ended up scuffing it and respraying it just to top coat it. A couple of the scratches from assembly. These sideboards turned out really good. They've got Delrin sliders, stainless bolts going into pressed in T-nuts, so you got no sharp edges on the backside. Did an 1/8 inch round on all the wood. I don't want to get into the wood stuff. I didn't film any of that. It's not my favorite, but these turned out really nice. Planned the gaps. Yeah, really happy with how these turned out. The 1.5 by 3 tubing had a really small weld bead in it in the side, which worked out well. So these slip in really nicely. And then I put foam under the inside here, keep it up off the paint. So really, really happy with how this turned out. Got the floorboard cleaned up. This was all the earlier scope of work. The cup holder, the light switch mount, shifter bezel. And yeah, this is ready to go home. So I'm gonna give it a final once over here in a little bit, but pretty fun transformation. I hope to see this thing in a parade in the future. So this was good stuff. I like fun little projects like this. Get a win. I think the customer's going to be happy. So good stuff.